Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to do Ben Shapiro versus Seneca Uyghur's debate highlights, best moments, Smackdown. Let's get it. I love these debates. Let's go. Let's see how Ben do. Let's see how he do. And let's hop right into it. No time to waste. Let's go.
The problem with Medicare for all is that when people say that it's affordable, this isn't affordable to the person who has the Medicare. It is not affordable to the country. In fact, it is so unaffordable to the country that the state of California was a nut job leftist state, just refused to even pass Medicare for all because it would have immediately doubled the debt. Just declaring things rights does not...
You know what's funny? California just became one of the richest states in the world. Actually, it surpassed Japan. California.
Make them appear. What makes more things appear is a market-based system that creates more doctors, that creates more medical care, that creates more incentive for people to join up. It is better to treat things as goods than as rights, because declaring something a right just means that you have the right to steal it from me.
Ben, I don't want to steal.
No, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. No. Every major country in the world believes healthcare is a right. Healthcare should not be something that should be marketed as profit. It shouldn't. Like, that was the whole point of Obama. It was called Obamacare. People call it Obamacare, but it's the Affordable Care Act. It was to prevent companies from being able to judge people with pre-existing conditions, to be able to deny people coverage when they need coverage. Healthcare should be a right, 100%. Steal it from you. My thing about like this whole country when it comes to patriotism, why is it like people will make a lot of money and then say, I don't want to put that money back into anybody. I made that money, so I should be able to keep that money. It's like you don't have to, like, nobody's gonna take 100% of your wealth. Like, nobody's trying to do that. But definitely, like, if you're a patriot, why wouldn't you want to put money back into people so they can become like you, grow like you? You know, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to me.
Health insurance from you. I want you to be healthy. That's why I want Medicare for all.
You just want to take my money and my wife's services.
Conservatives seem a little confused about how healthcare works. So they're like, oh my God, it turns out the healthy subsidize the sick. Yeah, that's insurance.
The idea that everybody who's paying into Medicaid paid for it and now they get out what they paid in is obviously not true. It is a redistributive program, and to pretend otherwise is just silly. The idea that all of these socialized medicine countries have it so much better than we do, particularly in terms of cancer care, is a joke. We are still number one in terms of 5-year cancer survival rate here in the United States.
Sure, there are different areas where we excel. But, Ben, honestly, you're cherry picking there at one particular area that we're good. Overall, we're number 37. That is not a good result.
The standard of...
That's a fact. We're number 37 in the world. But Ben made a good point, too. We're definitely number one in cancer.
Care is the entire question when it comes to single-payer health care. But the fact is that rationing is mandated as soon as you start having the government run the healthcare system and decide what level of care people get. They don't care about me. They don't know my child's name. They don't know my name. All they know is how much I cost. Ezekiel Emanuel comes out and says, listen, I want to die at 70, right? I want to die at 80. That's fine with me. I'd rather die at that. Well, that's good for him. But if I don't want to die at 80, or I don't want my father to die at 80, it's none of his damn business.
I agree with that.
This idea that corporations are paying the highest tax rate is both, again, true and untrue. The part that it's true is, hey, there's the rate of 35%. The part that's not true is they don't actually pay that. There is giant loopholes.
Facts. There's giant loopholes for them, and they do pay 35%, which is probably is the highest because it's taxed on their dollar, like what they make, the 35% of what they make. So it is going to be the highest tax that they pay, but at the same time, it's also the lowest tax because 35% to us, well, no, it's the highest tax. It's the highest tax. The loopholes get around it, though, is what it was the point. Cenk said. I was going to say the same thing he basically just said.
Tax loophole is just a tax deduction that's available to everyone, and some people take advantage of it and some people don't. The amount of tax revenue of the government right now is trillions of dollars every year.
As a percentage.
That's true. The tax loophole is available to everyone. This is a good debate. Oh my God, I'm loving this right now. Like, this is a great debate. He's 100% correct. The tax loophole is available to everybody that's wealthy, that has a lot of money, and has the ability to be able to use the tax loophole.
Is clearly down. The top bracket now is around 39%. It used to be at 91%, right?
But our economy is significantly larger than it was then, and part of that is because of reductions in taxes over previous decades.
Well, we tried supply side.
Yep. He's about to bring supply side economics.
Economics. Hey, Kansas, how's that working out for you? There's this myth that
it's working out for you. Your business is doing great.
Okay, yeah. For example, they hide their money offshore. They do tricks like the double Dutch and the Irish sandwich or the reverse. I would end that. I would say, hey, you know what? We've got a 35% rate. Here's the new rule. You're going to pay 35%, okay? And you're not allowed to hide your money. I don't care if it's in the Cayman Islands. We're going to make that illegal.
Corporations they don't have any of your interests at heart. You are a corporation. TYT's it's a corporation. You have 80 employees. I assume that you're not just a greedy ass, and that you actually would like to help your employees from time to time. You seem to be identifying a higher tax rate in the 1950s with higher level of growth. So if that's the case, why not just tax everybody at 100% and we can have massive growth from here to eternity?
Of course you have to find the right balance on all of these issues, including taxes. Mm-hmm. So I never said there's no end to how much you can.
I'm just asking why, though.
Yeah. So this leads to no. Wait a minute. So now, look, when that's not to say that is the right tax rate for us today. And so the exercise of finding the right tax rate is. Guys, try to follow along, okay? It's called logic. So
he just insulted the entire audience, and now you done lost. Why you insult the entire audience like that?
What we have to do as a society is figure out where we can maximize the most amount of good for the country.
Be closer to zero or closer to
the government, but not too much away from us. So, for example, the reason why when taxes are higher, it winds up being better for the economy is because it recirculates the money. So if you give it to the rich, this is hilarious. If you're uneducated, please at least don't make it obvious.
Assaulted the audience twice, man. Like, they're not uneducated. They're listening to what you're saying and they're reacting to it within shock, dude. Chill. Like, relax, buddy.
When the middle class has more money, disposable income, they spend it. Why? Because they're not living in the lap of luxury. They're not saving it for their yacht. So they need to buy food for their family. They need education for their family. So they spend it and it goes back into the economy. If you just give it in supply side economics to the rich and hope that it trickles down on us eventually decades later, what they wind up doing with it is something that is logical. They save it.
The problem with Keynesian economics is that it doesn't even work in theory because, again, once you go to the logical extreme, which is remove all of the money from the rich people who are saving all their money and give it to all the poor people to buy hamburgers, that doesn't help the economy or spur the economy.
Oh, you're stupid. First of all, no, they're not going to buy hamburgers. They're going to spend it on parts that they haven't done. They're going to spend it on the parts that they haven't fixed on their car. They're going to spend it on groceries for themselves. They're going to buy furniture for their houses. They're going to invest back into the market. Anytime you give people money, that's what they do with the money they give them. They buy back into the market. I've never understood why like rich people don't like the idea of Keynesian economics. It makes sense. You have more money now. Now I have an area to go grab more money from because there are people that have money out there that can buy things from me during tax season. I'm gonna tell you, I used to sell furniture. Tax season was the best time for furniture. It was literally the best time for furniture because people got handed a check. So then they can come in and buy whatever they wanted. And like you could sell them pretty much anything during tax season. Like, what do you mean? Like, handing them just hamburgers? I mean, hamburgers, they would probably be something they would buy as well. But at the same time, that would still stimulate the economy because there's money going back into the economy instead of money going back into the rich people and them investing in their future portfolios. That doesn't stimulate an economy, like, completely. Like, I don't know. I'm back and forth on this.
What spurs the economy is the creation of new products and services, and that is only going to be done by people who have expendable capital to actually invest in new products and services that we all enjoy. This is what creates economic growth.
And both of these are great, both of these are great examples. They're both great examples.
You had an investor, right? When you started TYT, you were given $4 million by Buddy Romer to start TYT. That's great. That's the way business should work, right? But that money it didn't come from a bunch of poor people buying hamburgers. It came from a very, very wealthy guy who gave you money to create a business a lot of people want to patronize. If you want better products and better services, you need more investment in the products and services. The basic name trickle-down economics is not something that any conservative even proposed. It's a leftist revision of what economics actually is, because you're not giving me the money. It was my money in the first place, created through voluntary transactions that I had with others. I've not stolen money from anyone, neither have you. And the idea that money has to be forcibly taken from you and handed to somebody at the bottom end of the economic spectrum to somehow jog the economy, that may jog McDonald's, but is not going to jog all of the creation of the products and services that make all of our lives much better today than they were 30 years ago in terms of the stuff we have access to.
I don't understand why he doesn't think in the same way it works and vice versa. If you put money into the economy so people could go spend money, the same companies that exist exist would have the ability to be able to build up their company and still invest because there's more people buying more products in their company, right? Whereas in like, you know, just taking tax cuts off of it, because it could work either way. It could work either way. That's just where I'm going with it. It could work either way. I don't see how either one of these are bad examples or either one of these are bad options. But the money doesn't trickle down. That's definitely been proven, like 100% beyond a reasonable doubt, that the money doesn't trickle back down into the economy. So I'm curious to know, like, what does he mean?
Come on.
You were the one who said
so
food.
The middle class is struggling right now, and we've turned this into a Walmart economy where people are getting $7.25, and that if you're getting around $10, I think that's about $15,000 a year. So don't, like, that is serious pain and difficulties. So if you give those people money, it's not like, I just want to go get a hamburger, and it's not, and taxes is not stealing from you. So you're right, I run a business. So in order for people, my employees, to get to my company, you know what they have to do? They have to drive on roads. Okay, so it's not stealing from me to build that road.
I don't think anyone argues that we don't need roads to get to work. The problem is that when you're talking about roads as a percentage of the budget, we are talking about a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of the federal budget and of the state budget and even of the local budget. So the idea that you're justifying massive tax rates on corporations in order to pay for roads.
Well, we should have hopped on that. He said it's a tiny expense. That's a big expense. Huge expense. That's a huge expense. It creates jobs. It pumps money into the market. It allows people to put money back into the market, like them being able to pay for roads, infrastructure, police departments, anything federal that we need on a personal basis, or people that cover that federal to cover whatever is federal. Like, it's way more than just a small part of the budget. And when you know what's funny, with what he just said, if it is a small part of the budget, let's just say he's correct about it being the small part of the budget. So what was the point of Elon Musk doing all those cuts on the federal spending? What was the point of him doing the cuts? Because he only cut the thing you just called the small percentage. What's the big percentage? Just out of curiosity with what Ben just said. I'm curious. Maybe I could be looking at this the wrong way, but I'm curious.
Is just intellectually dishonest.
I think that the Republicans will definitely pass tax reform. They will do everything. They will move mountains to make sure that those rich donors and corporations will get their tax cuts.
Republicans pass tax cuts because they're beholden to their donors. Okay, and Democrats pass tax increases because the unions give them hundreds of millions of dollars every year. And I don't see Democrats complain about this.
You got me there. The unions give money to the Democrats.
Are you angry about that? I mean, does it upset you as much as, bankers giving money to Republicans?
No. The corporations give way more than the unions. So
it depends which corporations. That's not really true.
Look it up. You can Google it. It's really easy.
Here's the problem. Okay, TYT, we both have corporations, and we expound upon politics every single day. And we motivate thousands of people, right, every day on both sides of the aisle. That is effectively an in-kind contribution. Now, you campaigned with Bernie Sanders. Did you do it because you expected? That's fine. Did you do that because you supported Bernie Sanders, or did you do that because you expected some gimme for TYT in return? I assume you did it because you supported Bernie Sanders, right?
Yes.
So the point that I am making is to attribute to everyone else bad intent when it comes to political spending and politics, but to yourself it's totally fine. And when it comes to other media entities that give in-kind contributions on a regular basis through their coverage.
You say, well, what's the difference between your speech and...
I ain't gonna lie, Ben killing him. And in some of these clips, Ben killing him.
Their speech. Mine is actually speech, and theirs is money. So there's a giant difference.
But you spend money on your speech.
So first off, so they say, no, Supreme Court says, no, money is speech now. No, money is property. It's not speech. And so if money was speech, well, then if you go to a hooker and you say, oh, no, officer, I was just talking to her. Okay, money is not speech.
Again, I ask you, Buddy Roemer gave you $4 million to start TYT. What did he expect in return? Should he not have given you money? Was the money not speech? It was just money, after all. It's just like a hooker, I assume. So are you the prostitute? How did this work? When you take money from Al Jazeera, does that make you a hooker for the Qataris? How does that work?
That was an awesome conflation. Okay, we were talking about money in politics and how money is not speech when you give it as a campaign donation, and you turn it around to a business investment. You know, in a business investment, it has nothing to do with speech. Money is money. They gave us an investment, because they believed in our business. That has nothing to do with politics.
That's great. And you think the government is in the business of regulating business. So if the government is in the business of regulating business, what would be the problem with the government telling Buddy Roemer he is not allowed to invest in your business?
No, those are two different issues. No problem. So when the Koch brothers or Bloomberg or Soros puts in hundreds of millions of dollars into elections, you think, well, he's just doing them because they're good guys and they damn well please buying all those politicians. Or you think, no, the politicians would never be affected by hundreds of millions of dollars in legalized bribes.
Cenk,
so I'm curious what your opinion on that is. Do you think that they're just golly shucks, they just mean well? And
Cenk, you're a lawyer, so you know that bribery requires two parties to the bribe. If I give money to a politician, there must be something in return. If there is no quid pro quo, there is no bribery.
You think there's nothing in return?
Well, you
think the politicians don't do those favors?
I think very often there is something in return. But I want you to point me to the things that are in return, not just say that all spending on politics ought to be forbidden except for the Young Turks.
I'm confused, Ben. Are you fighting for the fact that people can invest, that people can invest in super PACs or... we have lobbyists like that. What are you fighting for, Ben, right now? I'm curious. That doesn't. Wow, I'm interested.
No,
Ben is killing him, but I'm just curious to know what he's fighting for in this argument.
Of course not what we say.
Young Turks is super successful. We have 80 million uniques. It's wonderful. Do you think Bernie Sanders would care more if you gave him $10,000 or if you dedicated your entire network to kissing his ass for an election cycle?
Yeah, he threw a lot of subliminals on that, but it was still good, though. I liked the debate. I liked it. It was really good. But, at the end of the day, I'm curious on what he was fighting for. Are you trying to say that it's okay for, big companies to be having some type of hand in elections and things like that? I'm not saying it's wrong for them to invest. If they want to invest, then by all means invest. But is there an incentive behind their investment is definitely a good question. But, all right, y'all. Peace.